with the first pick.
Thunderstruck! Thunderstruck! Yeah, Thunderstruck!
Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Rant podcast presented by Stadium Rant. Check out Stadium Rant on YouTube and all social media platforms for tons of great content. I'm your host, Dan Baker, accompanied by my fellow co-hosts Lee Cook, Evan Gooding, and Mason Beck. Today we are going to be, fingers crossed, finishing up the wide receivers, heading into part 3. We got some guys to talk about, so we'll make sure we make it quick and informative here. But we are going to be starting off with a pretty divisive player in Xavier Legette. Before we jump into Xavier, though, we got some breaking news broke about 10 minutes ago from Adam Schefter. J.K. Dobbins signing a 1-year deal with the Los Angeles Chargers. Evans Boyos bringing another RB, much needed in that running back room. Joins his old running back mate, Gus Edwards. Obviously, we know about J.K. Dobbins, big old injury history. But let's say you're J.K. Dobbins manager in a Superflex Dynasty League right now. What would be the minimum pick, the lowest pick that you would need in a rookie draft, like a rookie draft pick, in order to trade away J.K. Dobbins? Evan, this is your team, so I'll let you kick it off.
I probably would. I mean, if I have health, I'm assuming you have like a healthy RB room if you still are holding on to J.K. Dobbins. And I think that I'd probably take whatever I could get for him. But if I'm if I'm needy for a running back, I'd be willing to pay at most like a mid to late third. At most, that's what I'm paying for him. I'd happily probably pay for a fourth, but I honestly, I'd try to sell him if anything I could with the news, because this is probably the best landing spot that could have happened for him.
Okay, so let's say you are selling, though. You're a J.K. Dobbins manager. What would be the worst pick possible someone could send you where you still say yes to the trade?
I would take him for 412.
Or you would take him for anything?
Yeah, I would take him for anything I could. Right
Wow.
now. So I'm not trying to get him. I mean, I might be trying to get him in one league just because that one league I'm very desperate for running back. But like other than that, really not. Like this is just any type of running back desperate for,
right?
And cheap. So no, I'm really not trying to attain him right now still, because I do believe that we're gonna talk more about it maybe, but
yeah. Mason, what do you think?
I mean, I think I would sell him. I think it's around an early fourth. I mean, just the injuries are so much there, and it obviously is a really good landing spot. It does honestly boost his value. Like I wouldn't, before this happened, I had no interest in going after him. But now I'd say, mid fourth, early fourth, just for the upside. But I mean, if someone offered me maybe like the 4-10, I would take it for Dobbins.
All right, Lee.
Yeah, I'm going to be a bit higher than you guys. The 25-year-old running back, obviously he does have an injury history. I mean, that's a huge concern. He looked great, last year before he got hurt. The year before looked really good. He's, I think, 5.8 yards a carry in the NFL, obviously with limited carries. But we've got a very weak running back class. And of the spots he could have signed with, maybe only Dallas would have been better for his potential. Going back to his Greg Roman, he played under Greg Roman. He's a guy that, to me, I would say to sell him, I would probably have to have a 301, 302. I don't see much value in fourth round picks. And I think his potential, and obviously, not to beat a dead horse, but the injuries are a major concern, but he has the potential to be better than any running back out of this draft. I mean, he has the pedigree. We'll see if he can stay healthy. Some of it's been really bad luck. But especially if the Chargers don't take a running back until day 4. Day three. If they go on day 4 as an undrafted rookie, and that's possible too. But if they don't take one on day 2, I think that boosted me even further, and then I probably would need a late 25 second before I would trade him.
Yeah, I think me and you are in sync on this one. I said mid-third round. I have the first 3 rounds of rookie picks all mapped out, and not to, give any spoilers away here, but I'll say a name like Javon Baker. I have him at the 31st overall pick. That's 307. So right after him is where I'd be comfortable trading, trading away. Right before that, I would trade away J.K. Dobbins. Anything after that, I would accept. I do think that he, like you said, 25 years old, 25.3 to be exact. He's got 5.8 yards per attempt over his career. Obviously, like you said, the injuries are the biggest scare. But if he stays healthy, he looks like anything like he has when he's been healthy in the past. I don't see a reason why he doesn't succeed in this offense. So that's the only worry. Whereas a fourth round pick can just be a complete bust based on talent level. I don't think the talent level is a worry for JK. It's just the health, and obviously it's a big worry.
I'd be really interested, and obviously I don't think we've seen the money yet, but I'd be really interested to compare his money versus Gus Edwards' money.
Yeah,
The contracts, and I think this really hurts Gus Edwards more than anything because we already assumed they're going to draft a running back. They still may. Gus Edwards could end up being a training camp casualty. At the very least, he may end up third on that depth chart. So if you didn't already trade Gus Edwards away, it's too late now.
I think he was
I don't
signed.
think he'll
Gus
get
was signed for
cut.
multiple years, so I think that the Chargers have a little bit more confidence in him and went after it out to get Gus.
Right, the dead cap's still pretty low. The contract was 2 years, $6.5 million with 3.3 guaranteed. So that 3.3 is the dead cap this year. They could cut him and not have a problem. I don't think they will cut him, as he definitely offers something that most other backs, both in the draft and on the roster, don't have. Really, the only other guy between both that could challenge him for goal line work would be Braylon Allen. So outside of that, nobody's got that skill set that he has. I think he'll definitely stay on the roster. However, I agree that his production will definitely take a hit if J.K. Dobbins can stay healthy. All right, and then last question. We'll make this one quick. Do you guys expect the Chargers to draft a running back still? I say yes.
Yeah, without a doubt, and that's why it kind of lowers both Gus and J.K. Dobbins' value for me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I do, but I definitely think this could move it from a day 2 to a day 3 pick and really just make it a really jumbled up situation where you're not going to have any idea who the valuable one is going into the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much exactly agree with Lee. I think it does push back their running back draft pick a little bit because there is a lot of upside with Dobbins. If it does revive his career there in LA, I definitely think that they'll be looking for that. But I just don't think there's enough certainty with J.K. Dobbins for them to not draft another RB.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, this is a guy, and I think we would all agree here. We're pulling for him, man. This is a guy who had a world of talent. He's been so unfortunate with injuries. He's still young. Really, the timing of the injury last year was devastating. I'm hoping he just balls out, and not just because I own him on a team or two.
I was gonna say, I'm definitely pulling for him. So is my dynasty roster. I drafted him 4 years back after the ACL tear, and I drafted both him and Cam Akers like 12th round, something ridiculous, but because they both came off of devastating injuries. So
Yeah,
I've always
the
was
two
like,
prime examples of why not to draft off of injuries.
they'll get healthy, they'll bounce back. What a steal! There's multiple people are like, you bastard, you took both of them. And
I mean, I'm not going. I forgot about him, so I was mad when you did draft them both at those.
People were jealous, and I should have traded them immediately.
Yeah.
All right, let's not waste any more time. We got Xavier Legette first up out of South Carolina. Guy is 6'1", 221 pounds, and 23.1 years old. We started this series 2 weeks ago, so when we did part one, I think some of these rankings slightly shifted a little bit. But the Fantasy Pros have him positionally ranked at wide receiver 12, in Dynasty overall at wide receiver 77, and on the PFF big board they have him at the 63rd pick. So that would put him at the 231. So that would be going to the 49ers. Interesting. So let's start talking about the positives here. What did you guys see when you're breaking down his film? Evan, I know you got some hot takes on this guy, so I'll send it your way.
I love this guy. Big physical wide receiver, can make plays by getting open using his speed and to get separation. And he's also got some great jump ball ability. Not many guys his size can run like a sub 4.40. He was clocked at going 23 miles per hour on one of his runs. So he's going to be a problem for some defenses and a solution for my fantasy lineups because I'm drafting him early.
Ooh.
Oh, also
Good.
incredible accent too.
I actually have not heard any of his interviews, but
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing that.
He's got a big country boy accent.
Everyone's calling him Leggett, but maybe it's like Leggett or something. Oh, is that, you said country boy?
Big country boy accent. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm way off with the French there. Mason, what do you got here on some positives?
Yeah, I mean, definitely my number one positive on him is he's for his size. He does have good speed. And he is pretty good at getting yards after catch. That can transition to a lot of fantasy points. And yeah, I mean, he can make those contested catches, like Evan said.
Yeah.
The athletic profile, just overall, he's a very good athlete for his size, kind of as we've already mentioned. Hand-eye coordination. He's a guy who, if you only watch his second senior year, his fifth year, you'll come away very impressed. But that's kind of a segue to some of the negatives, but I'll wait till we get there.
All right. Yeah, for the most part, I had a lot of what you guys had. Just to add to it, I thought the ball tracking ability downfield is great. He's really good after the catch, not just a big body, but a fluid mover. Not necessarily agile, where he's going to make guys shake and bake to make guys miss, but enough to throw some players off kilter and then run through them. I also thought that he used his big frame well to fend off wide receivers. However, transitioning into the negatives, you guys were talking about the contested catches. I definitely saw some on the highlight tape that were very impressive. Overall, though, throughout his career, 42.9% contested catch rate in college. And I think this is going to be the biggest glaring negative that we all talk about, the production profile. What happened in those first 4 years? I don't understand it.
Not much.
He didn't. It's exactly. And it's not like he wasn't on the field running routes. Not like he had some devastating injuries. I really don't understand what happened in those first 4 years. All saying it's not. He didn't even. I'm not going to use the right word here. Transition. He didn't move colleges. So I really don't get what happened, other than maybe he turned 22 years old and is playing against some 18-year-olds, and now he's got the chance to shine. So that's the biggest glaring negative. The last thing I'll add is just that it wasn't I thought that the route running was definitely below average. The reception perception by Matt Harmon just came out today. He had 19th percentile success rate against man coverage, 62nd against zone, which is okay, not great, and then 19th percentile against press. And for a guy who's as big and fast as he is, he shouldn't be having a problem with press. So all of those are really glaring red flags. Also didn't have any an above average success rate on anything other than the dig and slant route and flat route. But, vast majority of them looking very red over here. That is the biggest negatives for me. I'll go reverse, flip that Uno card. Lee, what you got here for the negatives?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hinted on it, man. In 41 games prior to his fifth season, he had 42 receptions. So he was just a tick over one catch per game. That's a scary stat line. And as you said, it wasn't that he was hurt. It wasn't that he really struggled to get on the field, especially kind of after that freshman year. It's just he was invisible. He wasn't earning targets, which is a big concern. Not only the jump, but how huge it was in that fifth year. It's really hard to look back and find guys who were just invisible for that long of their college career, popped for their last season, and then had success in the NFL. We'll see. I think run blocking is an issue. I think his release is probably going to be, one of the bigger issues, at the next level. Doesn't have great acceleration, doesn't have great release. So he's really going to have to be, at least early on, a move the change type of guy. We'll see, but I'm nowhere near as high on him as Evan is. I think he has a huge bust potential.
Evan, defend your boy.
Dude, I mean, in terms of the negatives, he's that you guys hit it all. He's only got the 1 year production and he's got age. But this guy who's incredibly rare genetic profile and just you can't teach that. Like we were talking, you can't teach some of the stuff that he's able to do, and it's going to be fun to watch him on the field. And I want to be a part of rooting for him, not rooting against him.
Lee, I'm sorry, Mason.
Yeah, well, no. Like they said, his acceleration, that's a big part. That's definitely one downside I saw. And then his change of direction isn't the best, which, could lead to some bad route running. I could honestly see him being just a more of a downfield guy, just pure off of his speed. And yeah, I mean, I'm not as high up on him either as Evan is, that's for sure. I think he definitely does have potential. And the production, it obviously is just the big red flag. I mean, one good year, that's, we haven't seen a ton. We saw some pretty slow, sluggish play from him for 4 years, and 1 year doesn't necessarily buy my confidence.
I hear you there. All right, for the player style comp, I got Gabriel Davis. I felt like that boom bust potential, kind of speaks it right there. Like Gabriel Davis, game to game, still has potential overall. But in terms of Xavier Legette's career, I'm about as confident in that career as I am throwing money on Gabriel Davis plus 60 yards receiving. So, Evan, what do you got here?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comp. I have him as a slightly DK Metcalf.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got him as DK as well. That's who I saw a lot of play style similarities to.
They're both sub 4.4, but he was like a late 4. I think he was a 4.39, and DK was a 4.33. So he's definitely slower than DK. But I think they're similar size. Honestly, they're both huge monsters.
Yeah.
I
mean, DK's 6'4", really quick, just saying, and Legette's 6'1". So
yeah, but they're both 220 something pounds.
Yeah, no, they're thick old boys.
Yeah.
So I've got two, and one is if he meets Evan's expectations, and one is what I expect him to be. I could see it, and you can see it just like I said, watching him this last season, where he could turn into an AJ Brown type of dominant receiver in the NFL. That's the absolute ceiling, the best he could possibly be, and that's a heck of a comp, obviously. I think he's more likely Kenny Britt, a guy who does have a few big games in NFL and probably carves out a solid 4 to 6 year career, but ultimately is just a guy and isn't anything special.
All right. And then for the Superflex rookie draft value, I have him going in the back of the second. Let's see here. Okay, I got him at the 211.
Yeah, I got him 211, 212. I think that's obviously landing spot could boost him up a little bit, but as of now, without knowing where he's been, and even probably after the draft as well, I'm still would probably say 211, 212.
Evan?
Yeah, I have noticed our biggest discrepancy here so far. Yeah, I got him at the 110.
Wow.
That is spicy. Lee?
I'm a little bit higher than you guys as far as Dan and Mason, but nowhere near as high as Evan. I've got him around 208 to 210 range, and some of that's based on where I'm projecting him to go. And there is, like I said, there's undeniable potential there.
All right. Let's move on to our next player. We got Jalen Polk out of Washington, coming in at 6'1", 203, just 21.9 years old. Fantasy Pros has him as the wide receiver 13. Fantasy Pros has him as the dynasty wide receiver 84. And then PFF has him on the big board at the 59th overall pick. Some of the positives that I saw in his game: fantastic concentration, great uncontested catches. Saw tons of plays where he either adjusted to a tipped ball or caught a ball in heavy traffic and got popped. Got a big catch radius, makes some difficult catches look very easy. He also looks kind of skinny, but he weighed in again at 203, and he plays like 203 on film, plays with some strength. I do think that he has above average agility, but not going to make a ton of guys miss. In 2023, he forced 15 missed tackles on 69 receptions. Not crazy, not terrible, but kind of middle of the pack there. But overall, it's got some really reliable hands. Dropped just 8 passes on 197 targets over his 4 years in college. That's great numbers. I think he's going to be a reliable big slot guy for some team here in the NFL draft. Won't give up my landing spot yet. All right, Mason, what do you got here for Jalen Polk?
For positives, I mean, he's got good hands. Obviously, that's something that's needed in a wide receiver. And yeah, strength is definitely there, and that could lead him to being in and getting a lot more play time just due to strength. Being in during running plays as well. And yeah, I mean, he's got good burst for his size. He's not necessarily the fastest guy, but he does have a little good acceleration and burst, which could definitely get him some more targets going his way.
Evan?
Yeah, I mean, big positive too is his age, 21 years old. That's great to see. I love young wide receivers coming into the league. He's definitely a downfield stretcher. Got red zone threat, decent jump ball ability. I feel like he's going to be a below average wide receiver 2 or high end wide receiver 3 on a team.
Okay. Lee?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that jumped out to me, and you mentioned it already, Dan, is the hands. Just incredible hands. If it touches his hands, he catches it, which can seem overly simplistic. But I mean, look at the Kansas City wide receiver room last year. It doesn't matter how athletic you are, how fast you are. If you can't catch the ball when it gets there, you're not worth very much in the league. So to me, just on hands alone, he'll be able to carve out a meaningful career in the league. He tracks the ball well, and he has a great catch radius on top of having those hands. So to me, he's a guy who I was pretty impressed, and he moved up a few spots for me this week.
Yes, sir. All right. So moving on to the negatives, we have I have average speed at best. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not a calling card. It showed up on film, not going to break away and create those huge gains. Also ran a 4.52 40-yard dash. And I think that above average, maybe route runner. I think that there's some times where, I don't have any stats to back it up, but it did not seem like he had a high success rate against man coverage. I think he did fine versus zone in the film that I watched. Don't have any reception perception to back this up quite yet, but yet to be seen. All right, Evan, what do you got here?
Yeah, I think I want to see more route versatility from him. I feel like I saw a ton of just go routes, hitch routes, things like that. But I feel like he was also tackled on first touch. He's not going to be breaking a lot of tackles because he's not very fluid and doesn't have a lot of suddenness to him. But that's pretty much the negatives on him. I still like him. I saw him play. He's my UW hometown guy. But I wanted to see him at UW another year.
Yeah. All right, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of concur with what a lot of you guys touched on. Also, just blocking, run blocking. Again, and this is a fairly common theme because ultimately for a lot of these guys, they aren't asked to block as much at the college level or for as long as will be necessary in the league. And also just working against zones, kind of back to what Evan says as far as route versatility, finding those open spots in the zones. We know how much the NFL has shifted to zone defense, especially against the prolific passing teams. So really be able to work the zone a bit better and find those open spots is going to be where he's going to need to improve.
Hold on, really quick. Seattle ambulance, everyone drink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, Seattle.
Cheers. Oh, Seattle. Mason, what do you got here?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of touch off what you said, Dan. How you said he's that you saw he was bad against man, and I honestly saw he was bad against zone. That's what I saw, and I mean if we're both saying he's bad at one of them, I just think that's a bad combo. That if
Fair enough.
people have seen that, I just that's number one thing that pointed out to me after you said that. It's just like, oh man, yeah, like that. And like Lee said, it's moving to NFL is definitely moving to a lot more zone coverage, and
For sure.
I just think that I mean it's not going to work out great for him. And then yeah, his speed just isn't anything to wow you by any means. But there's some good aspects of him that can counter him not being the fastest guy.
Definitely. All right. So for player style comp, I have bigger Jordan Addison with less route running technicality. I thought this was one where I kind of had a hard time finding a comp.
This was tough. This was tough.
Yeah, I think you said it for was it no, definitely not legit. I don't know who we were talking about. Might have been pre-show, but it was just like a guy, as a guy. And like he does most things well, really great hands, but there's no trump card to be like, okay, I see him excel in this like this player. So that's who I got. Mason, who do you have for your player style comp?
So for Jalen Polk, my player style comp, I did also have a tough time kind of finding someone who resembled him, but I kind of settled on Terry McLaurin. I don't think he's going to be as good as Terry, but I definitely saw some similarities there.
Well, we got to send it to Lee now. What do you think about that player style comp?
That's lofty. That's a lofty comparison. I didn't quite go to that level, but I got a pretty strong one too for a young guy who's been pretty successful so far. Romeo Dobbs, kind of saw some similarities in the game there.
I like that. I really like that comp. I'm gonna change my comp. Romeo Dobbs is my comp.
I mean, I think that's a best case scenario for him, honestly.
Yeah, no, I really do like that comp a lot, though.
Mine was Mingo with hands.
Okay. Not quite as big as Mingo is.
No.
And definitely more of a slot guy in comparison. But I get with like the height and a little bit of the play style. Moving on, though, we got projected landing spot, and you guys hit me up. We didn't give Leggett his landing spot. So I got the Raiders at 313. I think he'd be a perfect complement to Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. Both guys primarily slot, short, intermediate routes. Leggett would hit them a legit downfield threat. Evan, what do you got?
I say we keep the Southern boy, in the Bible Belt, go to Atlanta. And, they got Drake London. They got their versatile route runner. Kyle Pitts is there, too. So he would be a nice third option for Atlanta, I believe.
Okay. Mason?
I have them going to Carolina. I think they definitely need a big downfield threat and just some guy who's got the speed. And I think Leggett would be a good fit to help Bryce Young, be able to extend the ball a little more.
Okay. Lee?
Cover your ears, Mason. You're not going to like this.
Oh, God.
I've got them going to San Francisco in the late third. I think they've got like 94, 96 overall pick. And I don't know if he'll make it that long, but I think that would actually be a really good spot for him. They're going to need a replacement for Brandon Ayuk. Sorry, Mason.
Right. Yeah.
Ayuk's not going anywhere. Don't you speak that into existence.
Ayuk's already spoken it into possibility.
I mean, it's definitely a possibility, but
I heard he unfollowed San Francisco and followed Washington on Instagram, and he did play with Jaden Daniels at Arizona State.
Ooh, boy.
All I gotta say is Debo unfollowed the Niners too. He's pulling the Debo card. Debo's sitting there coaching Ayuk, telling him how to make a bag. Yeah. That's how
I was gonna say that. I do remember it's John Lynch is your GM, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember him completely shutting that down. You want out? Too bad. Like. Sit out all you want. That's not gonna do you any well throughout training camp. NFLPA has not done the players much favors in holding out during training camp. So, All right. So going back to Jalen Polk, we have the landing spot. I got him going to the Jets. I think that the Jets brought in Alan Lazard, hoping that he would have that same chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, didn't get to test that out. But Lazard's continuing to age out. He's never been anything great. And I think Jalen Polk could be that big slot wide receiver that Aaron Rodgers has had success with over the years. Evan?
Honestly, I like yours too. I really don't like my landing spot either. I had Washington as my landing spot, but I don't know. I feel like the opportunity's there for him there too, but it's tough. It's tough to say, especially when he's being comped to McLaurin too. So that's crazy.
Lee, what do you got here?
I got him again, and I try to kind of project these from the lens of best possible and a realistic spot. I got him going back home. He's from East Texas. I got him going to Dallas in the third round, and I think that'd be a really good spot for him. They're in need of a second receiver behind CD.
100%. I do like that landing spot for Polk. Mason, what do you got here?
I got him going to the Cardinals. I think even if they do draft Marvin Harrison, I think that wide receiver room is just there's not really much there at all. Where I could definitely see them invest in a day 2 pick as well into the wide receiver room, give Kyler a little help. I mean, they've invested so much into Kyler, so I could see him go to Arizona.
Couldn't agree more.
Guess keep forgetting about my boy.
Michael Wilson's not a slot guy.
He's always like, "Oh, there's nobody there," and then people, he's there. He is there.
He's there. He is.
Greg Dortch is there too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Greg Dortch.
Yeah. So I don't mind not bringing up Greg Dortch, but I do mind when you don't bring up Michael Wilson.
Greg Dortch. You know what? Without fact checking it, I'm pretty damn sure Greg Dortch had about as much production as Michael Wilson did on much less playing time.
If not more. I don't know. Yeah.
Right. I'm looking at it now. Okay, I mean, that's pretty terrible. He really only started playing from week 9 on. 24 catches for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns, whereas Michael Wilson, not too much better for playing an entire season, but or close to an entire season. 38 receptions for 565 yards and 3. Both you don't want on your roster, in my opinion. I agree. The Cardinals got to take more than one wide receiver in this draft. You know, get your stud, then get a guy to complement him. Super deep draft class. So let's see who they get. So last bit here for Jalen Polk, really quick. Just hit us with the Superflex rookie draft. I got him going 306.
Yeah, I'm higher than you. I got him at a 212.
Mason?
I got 212 to 302.
Lee?
I'm quite a bit higher than all three of you guys. I got him at 206 to 207, and some of that is the landing spot.
We'll touch on this player later, but really quick, who would you take first of the Washington wide receivers? Obviously not Rome Odunze, but Jalen Polk or Jalen McMillan?
Polk.
I actually, going into this year, I was higher on McMillan, but after doing more research, I mean, he definitely took a back seat. We'll talk more about
injured.
McMillan.
Or no, it wasn't injured. It was something with the was it the transfer portal? I remember one player had difficulties transferring and was held out for the beginning part of the year. No, that wasn't McMillan. He was been with Washington.
Yeah,
I think he was injured to start the season.
Yeah, I really like McMillan, which makes it tough. That's what I'm saying. I
like McMillan too. Yeah, I think he's one of those sleeper guys.
He's a better route runner. We'll talk more about McMillan too, but
All definitely Polk for me.
Okay. I think that's definitely the general consensus. I slightly lean McMillan. We'll talk about it more later, but 2 years ago when they were both completely healthy, McMillan, much better year. After he got injured, Polk takes over that role. They keep it rolling that direction. But we'll talk about that later. All right, Devontae Walker. You know who it is, Lee. You ready? You ready, man?
We're waiting.
All right, we got 6'1.5", 193 pounds, 22.7 years old. Fantasy Pros got him at wide receiver 14 in the rookies, wide receiver 89 overall, and PFF has him at 72 overall on the big board. Lee, kick it away. Tell us about all the positives for your boy.
So, I mean, one, you kind of got to throw out the stats. He only got to play half the season. Only played 1 year at Carolina. So playing major college football, we only saw just a brief peak. But to me, the biggest thing that stands out to him in a positive is just how fast he plays. It's not necessarily the 40. It's not what he run, the underwear Olympics. but when he's on the field, he just plays fast. He has the ability to get open, and once he gets the ball, he accelerates and is explosive with the ball. He's a guy who I think he's a much more explosive player than what his numbers show. He's pretty good with yak because of that. The lateral movement and explosion is there. He's a instantly when he's drafted, he's going to be a great field stretcher and deep target. We'll see how much he can incorporate as far as the underneath part of the game. But to me, he's a game changer as far as the vertical part of the game from day one.
100%. And just really quick, I'll jump in here. This was the guy that had the issue with the transfer portal. He transferred there. They held him out for some time, finally got the approval, started playing in week 6. So he missed 5 games. Even with missing those 5 games over the last 2 seasons, he had 18 touchdowns. Guy's a touchdown threat on top of being a vertical threat. Great ball tracker, large catch radius. He's got some insane circus catches on the highlight reel, and he's got 58.8% contested catch rate in his last season there with UNC. So the last thing too, he can jump out of the building. He had a 93rd percentile for vertical jump and 97th for broad jump. The guy is fast. He's an athlete. And I think that honestly, he's being undervalued, both in rookie mock drafts and just in dynasty overall. In best ball, you can get him late. I can take a look and see what his ADP is right now. I'm in about 18 best ball drafts. So, Evan, what do you got for the positives?
Speed. Yeah, I mean, how many sub 4.40 wide receivers are in this class? This is crazy. This is such a fast class. A really unique trait that I liked about him is his ability to find open space and soft coverage. Thought he was able to do that pretty well. Decent size and athletic ability. I think he's a great target.
Really quick, just to follow up on it, in best ball, he is ranked as wide receiver 82, and his ADP is 195th. That is the 4th pick in the 17th round. Go take a flyer on a guy.
Yeah,
it's best ball. You'll automatically get his best weeks. All right, Mason, what do you got here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the speed, and he didn't have like a wow you away 40-yard dash time compared to everyone else. It is a very fast class, but like Lee said, he's got good explosiveness as well. It's not just speed necessarily in one part. He can get to pretty top speed quick. Downfield he take off, and then he does have good yards after catch ability. Which can, scheme up to a lot of, not just necessarily deep ball with the speed, but some short passes to him that he can, run up the field for 10 yards or whatever. And yeah, I mean, he does have good, I'd say above average hands than most people. He can catch a little bit if it is a little off from him. It doesn't have to necessarily hit him right in the chest for him to catch the ball. And he can definitely catch things that are a little off.
Yeah, for sure. To touch on those 2 points you just made, Mason, just 10 drops on 167 targets, and his wingspan sitting at 79 inches. That's what? Math. 6'5". That's a 6'5" wingspan for a guy who's 6'1". So the guy's got it. I think that, again, he's definitely being undervalued. Lee, I'll let you kick it off here for the negatives as well. What did you have when evaluating him?
Yeah, and again, I mean, some of this sounds a bit repetitive, but you see it a bit more, or you see it consistently with some of these college receivers. Getting off the press, that's always a concern going to the next level. Bigger, faster, stronger cornerbacks. We're not playing zone, or there is even some zone press that we're seeing now, but you're really that's where you have to be able to separate and get release, and that's where I did see him struggle a little bit with. Making catches in tight coverage, because a lot of he did have some circus catches, but there were some catches he probably should have brought down, especially with his athletic ability, that when he was covered well or it was in traffic, he maybe didn't come down with that catch. But, such a limited sample, NCAA, just not to backtrack, but he transferred before they changed the rule by about a week, and they still made him ineligible. And they took the North Carolina governor writing a letter and a huge campaign basically to get that changed, but just complete malarkey. But yeah, I mean, I think that's really the biggest thing for me. I mean, the route tree needs to improve, but as I said last week, I think that's probably the easiest spot to coach up a receiver when they get to the NFL.
Okay, Evan, what do you got here?
For the comps or for negatives, we're talking right here.
Yep.
Not comps. Yeah. What?
Negatives.
Yeah,
Yes.
negatives.
Welcome to the show, Evan.
Yeah, sorry. I was looking up something actually about my comp beforehand, so I want to make sure I didn't get too far ahead of myself. But I feel like I don't know if this is something because we've talked about this before, Dan, with Allen Robinson specifically. But falling after the catch, I don't know if it's like what do you call after catch balance? But a lot of plays I'm just noticing he's just falling after he catches the ball with nobody around him. So I see that as a problem, but he will need to be fed to also be relevant, and I don't see him commanding targets in any offense in the NFL right now. So,
okay, Mason.
Negatives, yeah, like Lee said, the press. That is a little, working off press. That is a problem for him. Definitely can be fixed. And then his route running necessarily isn't the most consistent. It's not terrible. But it is. There's definitely some signs of inconsistency, but that is definitely something that can be coached out once he's in the NFL with a good wide receiver coach.
Yeah, and agree with you again, Mason. One of the things I had here was the route running's inconsistent, but doesn't seem like it'll be a problem. He can occasionally round off routes where he should be like hitting the brake sharp. So that was one of the bigger things that I saw. Also, the yak ability, he has all of the tools for it to be a positive. But last season, 2 missed tackles forced on 41 receptions, only 113 yak yards. Again, I see all of the skill set there to have the yak be a positive in his game. It's just not what happened in this last season. And then you guys touched on the other negatives there. For the player style comp, I have Alec Pierce with better ball skills. Now, I know there's some negativity surrounding Alec Pierce because he's been terrible so far. This is more play style comp in the fact that they are both insanely athletic. If you can take a look at Alec Pierce's combine, it is off the charts in almost every category, similar to Devontae Walker. Tez had the jump out the building ability, 4.36 40-yard dash. The guy is an athletic freak, and I think that Devontae Walker has much better ball skills, which will translate for the style of player that he is. So don't hear Alec Pierce and think that Devontae Walker is going to get Alec Pierce production. This is just style comp. I know. Lee, don't beat me up. All right, Evan, what do you got here?
Lee's gonna want to be beating me up after this one, but I got Jalen Reagor.
Oh boy.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Those are fighting words, to be fair.
Yeah.
You guys are sleeping.
All right, Lee, what do you got then?
I'm on the other end of the planet from you guys, obviously. Calvin Ridley.
I could see that. I was actually looking up Ridley for another player style comp and saw that he had 0 acceleration, at least in his combine metrics. I don't think that Ridley actually has 0 acceleration, but I do think he has much more top end speed than acceleration. So just on that lone aspect, I don't see it, but like the other, like the size, the weight, everything else does match up a little bit. Mason, what do you got here?
I got a little bit better of a route runner than Jameson Williams.
Oh, interesting. That's very interesting because, I mean, they both had great 40-yard dashes. I do see Jameson Williams with like a slighter frame, higher speed, higher top end speed at least. That is interesting, though. In terms of player style comp, I'm not far off that. So projected landing spot, though, I like mine, so I'm gonna lead it off. I got him going to the Bengals. T. Higgins is gonna be out sometime soon. Like he already requested the trade, but also reported very recently within the last week that he plans on playing for the Bengals in 2024. So he's likely to be there, likely not to be there for longer than a year. They'll need a replacement. And I think Walker could be a guy that could, take the year, not have great production in year one, and then blow up in year 2 and 3. Lee, did I win your favor back? Am
I
I
like the
back
landing
in good
spot.
graces?
I like the landing spot, and I mean, especially we'll see what happens with T, but probably more than mine for year one. But mine's more of a long-term spot where I think you'll see some potential down the road a little bit. I got him going to Miami.
That's my landing spot as well. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, they love speed.
Mhm.
Tyreek has said he's retiring at the end of this contract. They don't have a lot of depth behind Waddle and Tyreek. Waddle had the injury struggles. I think, again, I don't know that it will be the best spot for his rookie season, but long-term NFL production and just putting him in that offense would definitely add another element. I mean, how many super fast, explosive guys on the field at one time can they get?
Yeah, I mean they added Chosen Anderson for that reason too. The big catch radius, downfield runner, fast guy. So I think that this is hit their Anderson replacement in Miami.
Interesting.
Another player comp that you would love, I'm sure. Lee.
All right, Mason, what do you got?
I have them going to the Bills if they do not draft Adonai Mitchell. If they do draft Adonai Mitchell, who I do see more likely going there, then I think there's no chance that Walker does go there. But then besides that, I have him going to the Chiefs, which necessarily I don't think would be a good first year because Marquise Brown, I think, is going to be the more speedster, definitely for 1 year. But he is only on the 1-year contract, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Then, I mean, I could definitely see them trying to develop some guy who can be a deep downfield threat for them. And yeah, those are my 2 landing spots.
Interesting. So 2 out of the 3 next guys that we're going to be talking about. Honestly, we're coming up. We got about a little over 10 minutes left here, so I'm just going to spoil it right here. Next guy we're talking about is really quick. Sorry, Superflex rookie draft value. Where do you guys have Tez going? Devontae Walker for the Superflex rookie draft value. I got him at the 210.
I figured I would be higher, but based on your guys, landing spot, maybe not. I'm at 203, 204.
Yeah, I got 209.
I got 209 as well. Could see him going up if he does go to the Chiefs or Bills, though.
Yeah,
that is interesting. I think and we'll talk about it next week when we cover running backs and tight ends. I think I'm just higher overall on the running back class than you guys are, and that's why some of these wide receivers are getting pushed back a little bit.
Yeah, well, there's a big gap here. That's pretty much there's the big gap you'll notice where my running backs are. Pretty much after Tez.
I got almost all of mine. It doesn't matter. We'll talk about that next week. All right, so I'm just going to straight up spoil it. We're talking about Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky, coming in at 5'11", 215 pounds for a 5'11" wide receiver, 22 years old even. Just turned 22 recently. I'm just going to jump to this because I thought it was interesting. I have him going to the Dolphins. There's another guy we'll talk about. Maybe you guys stick after the hour. We'll get to this guy, but Malik Washington, the other guy, I have both of those guys as prospects for the Dolphins because I think that he fits in really well as a slot wide receiver for those teams. You got Hill, you got Waddle on the outside. I really think that this guy would fit in well into the slot. So one of the reasons he's Malachi Corley, he's got the above average speed, elite short area burst, agility, and change of direction. He makes guys look stupid on the regular. At that BMI too, he's not just a guy that's gonna make you shake and bake, but he can run through a shoulder as well. I have it listed here. BMI is running back like. You should see some usage on the ground in the NFL, maybe not a ton, but he's going to get worked into that area of the game. He's got tons of flexibility. He's got those hips that's going to dip, make those guys take some bad angles. And then he's shown the ability to force a lot of missed tackles. Uh, Recently, this last season, only 13 missed tackles forced on 75 receptions, but in 2023, 36 missed tackles forced on 90 receptions. Also, no injury history in his career. So those are the positives I got for Malachi. I do think I'm a bit higher on him than consensus. What do you guys think about Malachi Corley? Lee, I'll send it your way first.
Yeah, I mean, he's I would agree. I mean, I think the biggest thing to me is he looks like a running back more than a wide receiver.
Right.
So that's something that I feel like there's some versatility there in the NFL. I could definitely see him, a team trying to work him in for catches, or touches rather in general. He's really good with the ball in his hands. So he's a guy that you want to get the ball to him. Really impressive production profile as well. 2,100 yards, 22 touchdowns over his last 2 seasons. I know it's at Western Kentucky, but that's still a nice production profile for a guy. Had a little bit of a drop off from the junior to senior year, but he's a guy I think he's flying under the radar that could definitely be a steal. And I feel like I got a really good comp for him.
I'm excited for the comps here.
Yeah, because this one's a tough one for me to come up with a comp. It was.
Me and Mason are chatting in the private chat over here, and I actually have a prediction now, and it might be the same as my prediction. Evan, what do you got here though for the positives on Malachi?
Yeah, great yak ability. He's able to seemingly like brush off tackles like nothing and just continue running in a straight line like as if he didn't even get touched. But I don't see him doing that in the NFL, so I got a will see in parentheses there. That's pretty much what I got for positives.
Yeah,
Okay, Mason, what do you got?
Like Lee said, I mean, he's kind of built like a running back. That definitely is one thing I saw from him. He's got great strength for his size. I do think he will be able to fight for extra yardage. Maybe his yard after catch won't be the best, but I do think he will have the ability to get around some people and, get forward a few extra yards, fight for the first down. He could be that guy that, 3rd and 5, quick slant route, 2-3 yards off. He's going to be able to fight for the extra yardage.
Really quickly and selfishly, I'm going to talk about some of the negatives here and bring in Malik Washington into the conversation because very, very similar style of play, production profile, at least in the last year here. But where Malachi Corley, one of his negatives is very, very low contested catch rate. Only caught 13 of his 46 contested targets over the course of his career. These are regular season stats, by the way. And 28.3% contested catch rate, whereas Malik Washington over the course of his career, 56.7% contested catch rate, even coming in about 3 inches shorter than Malachi Corley. So big on Malik Washington as well. Just doing that because we're probably not going to have time to get to him here. But yeah, Malachi Corley could improve on his release package. I do think that he doesn't have the greatest awareness in terms of his route running. I felt like specifically against zone, there's times where he ran himself out of it, where he could have just settled into a nice, easy spot for his quarterback. And then, he's going to be a slot guy. In college, he had an ADOT of 6.3 yards. That is so low. And he ran 91.5% of his routes from the slot in college, likely not to change at the next level. Evan, what do you got here for some of the negatives?
Yeah, he doesn't have real game-breaking speed, and if he can't break tackles like he can in college to the NFL, he's really going to struggle to produce because he doesn't have like any contested catchability. Doesn't have any other really big differentiators on his game.
Yeah, Lee, what do you think?
Yeah, not to sound like a broken record, but the route tree, he wasn't asked to do a whole lot, outside of, crosses, flat routes. He didn't show a lot, which doesn't mean he can't do a lot. It's just we haven't seen it. And again, I think that's the easiest thing to coach up. So we'll see when it gets to the next level. But that's the biggest thing. And then just as Evan kind of split, I do think he's got good speed. I don't think maybe the acceleration is there, the explosiveness. I think, long field, in the open field, he's got probably what I would say is above average speed, but maybe not as quick as what you see from a lot of NFL wide receivers.
Right. Mason?
Yeah, I mean, I just think being able to break tackles. I did say, he can fight for a little bit of extra yardage, which does help, but the ability to break away and, extend it into a big play, that is it. And like you guys have said, he showed very limited of what he can do with routes. It seems like he can only do a couple different things and, at least on a consistent basis. And, I feel like he's going to really excel off of plays that are designed for him, but that could also be bad for, his overall production, because if it's a game where plays aren't designed for him specifically, then, he might not get anything at all.
Right. All right, Mason, I'm sending it right back your way for the player style comp. Who do you got here?
A worse version of Debo. Debo does have the ability to break tackles, get the yards after catch. But I just see, the similar play style, how, a lot of plays are designed specifically for them. He is kind of built like a running back. He might just get a lot of touches, I don't think as much as Debo got in the year where he was playing, running receiver or whatever people were calling it. But yeah, or wide back is what people were calling it. Yeah, I mean, I just see a lot of Debo in him. Do I think he'll be as good as Debo has done? No, I don't think so. But like I also said, with Debo, how it is, if plays aren't necessarily designed for him, he is going to have some weeks that you're just like, they just absolutely bum you out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Does this speak to what you were talking about too? The BMI, right now, Malachi Corley, since 2011, this is off of Mock Draftable when they started charting combine measurements. 22nd percentile as far as height goes. 81st percentile for weight. That's insane for a guy that to have both of those measurements on the same body. So yeah, he the boy's thick. He's gonna be able to crack some tackles here. Really quick to touch on my player style comp. I got thicker Kadarius Toney, and this is relating back. I forgot who I said this about, but I was comparing them to Chase Claypool. But not a chooch.
There you go.
Not a chooch. This guy's not a chooch. Kadarius Toney, super chooch. So, take it for what it is, but I don't think this guy is going to be someone who gives nothing, no effort, and I think on the opposite side of that, he's going to give it his all, break some tackles, make some guys run over some guys that he has no business running over.
Right.
All right.
I got another guy that runs over guys that neither of you mentioned. Laviska Shenault for my player comp.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Also, he could be a chooch. We don't know that yet. We'll see.
That's
probably
true.
not.
He could be a chooch.
Yeah.
There's just nobody at Kadarius Toney and Chase Claypool chooch levels.
Yeah.
So not as much of a chooch.
Yeah.
Fair. So I've got a shorter, slower version of Cordell Patterson.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Good comp too. Yeah.
Yeah, I like both of those. All of us have guys that are going to make somebody miss after the catch. Some yak monsters. Just one of them happened to be a super chooch. So, all right. So, really quick, we got 1 minute left. Everybody just yell your projected landing spot when I say your name. I got him going to the Dolphins. Lee, who do you got?
Saints.
Cincy. Evan?
Chargers.
Ooh, interesting. Mason?
Patriots.
Okay. And then Superflex rookie draft value, I got him going 303. Lee?
Same.
Oh, nice.
Did you say 210?
I said 303.
You said 303. I'm at 210, 211.
I like it. Mason?
303 to 305.
All right. We're in similar territory there, boys.
Yeah.
All right. So that's going to wrap it up for the Atlanta Radio podcast. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to check out the YouTube and our social medias. Go on to the YouTube. I'll throw up our social medias on there so we don't waste any more of your time. Everybody in Atlanta, have a great week. For those of you who are
Go
staying,
Dogs.
for those of you who are staying with us, I'm gonna leave it up to the boys here. We got some players left to talk about. I would say primarily, so on the list of wide receivers, we got Javon Baker, Malik Washington, Jalen McMillan, Brendan Rice, Jermaine Burton, and Johnny Wilson. I will go vote by vote here. Let's just say one name that you want to talk about most. We'll cover that one player and end the show. Lee, you got one on your mind?
Jermaine Burton.
Jermaine Burton. All right, Mason.
Brendan Rice.
Brendan Rice. I knew you would say that. Evan.
I got to talk about Malik.
Malik. Well, yeah. So that's where my vote is.
Yeah.
I know we just talked about a guy very similar, and I was
got
already
it.
throwing in my little cheats here.
If I get my own, though, I'm taking Johnny Wilson. If I get my own pick.
Oh, you do have your own pick.
Oh, I thought we were
That's
trying
like
to vote.
maybe your own vote.
We get one more? Okay, well, then I'll take Johnny Wilson.
Johnny Wilson over Malik Washington. Do you have him ranked higher?
No, I have. That's what I'm saying. I have Malik Washington higher, and I'm definitely higher on Malik. I want to talk, but I know you're going to take him. So I mean, if I know you're going to take him,
Well, I would talk about him. I'm saying we were supposed to come to a consensus here.
Oh, okay,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. Malik Washington. I would take in terms of like where I have them going. I have him number one going out of all these guys. Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Full pivot. Instead of doing what we've been doing, like everyone goes down the list. Everyone take one player that you want to talk about quicker than normal. Let's go through some of the positives and negatives. We'll hit on each of the players that we want to talk about, but make it quick. I'll go first just because I got Malik Washington, and there's a lot of easy comparisons here. So Malik Washington out of Virginia, height 5'8", coming in at 191 pounds. He is older at 23.3 years old. That's one of the negatives that I have listed here.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to Malachi Corley, elite agility, acceleration, change of direction, and lateral quickness. This guy will make more guys miss. He's twitchy, unpredictable with the ball in his hands. Really tough player who consistently makes plays over the middle. Not scared of taking the shot. Very, very reliable hands. More so than any player that we talked about on today's show. He's dropped just 6 targets or 6 balls on his 321 reception or targets over his collegiate career. Talked about it earlier. High contested catch rate for a guy who's just 5'8.5". That came in at 64.7% in 2023 and 56.7% over his 5-year collegiate career. That's a high contested rate catch rate for a guy who's his size. And it's not just because there's a high percentage. There was 60 contested targets in those 5 years, and he still had 56.7% contested catch rate. Great body control, high points the ball well, although, how high can you high point a ball when you're 5'8", right?
Yeah.
But high points the ball well for what he can do. Also can jump out of the gym, 98th percentile in terms of his vertical jump. That helps a little bit at least. Good flexibility, fluid mover, and incredible contact balance. That's what really helped him create all of these missed tackles forced. He was the leading, out of all the wide receivers, he was the leader in terms of missed tackles forced last season. 35 missed tackles forced over last season. That's right. Okay. And then for the size, got the BMI. Obviously, 5'8's a problem, but he is short. Average top speed, only end up running in the 4.4s at the combine. Limited to the slot role. Age, definitely plus age. Player style comp, got him as a teeny tiny DJ Moore. Projected landing spot, either the Dolphins, Chiefs, maybe the Lions, if they use him in terms of like, you remember Khalif Raymond having a couple of years where he was semi-relevant.
Yeah.
A much better version of that. Move Amon-Ra a little bit more to the outside. Let Malik take some of those slot snaps, but obviously not surpassing either Amon-Ra or Jameson. Got him going at the 302 in Superflex rookie value. Done. Time. Moving on to the next guy. Who wants to talk about their player?
Who's next?
I'll go ahead. Oh, yeah, I'll go ahead and just jump in with Brendan Rice.
Yeah.
He's got good acceleration, which is really nice. I'm going to go into stats a little bit. He got in the 12 games he played this year, he got 12 touchdowns. That's pretty solid touchdown per game.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the year before he was in Colorado, and I personally got to watch him. He only put up 4 touchdowns, but that offense was abysmal. So, you can't expect a dude to score touchdowns when there's zero offensive production. But he still did produce. When that, in the games that I was at, it's a lot of bad offense, but he definitely was one of the bright spots in that. His average yards per catch this year was 17.6. The year before that, 15.7. Year before that, 14.2, and then his first season, 20, which he didn't get much playing time his first season. But still, he gets some good yardage out of his catches. He's above average on yards after catch, which proves into what I'm saying. And he's a strong physical player, and I just think I love Jerry Rice, so I do probably believe in Brendan Rice a lot more than most people. He is also a good blocker.
Homer.
Yes,
What?
exactly. But just like Frank Gore Jr. is going to be a stud. But yeah, he is a good blocker. Yeah, it's okay to make that face for Frank Gore Jr. But now, like I said, high effort blocker. It's going to get him in on run plays. Play action plays, give him a little more time. Some inconsistencies that I have with him is more negative side. He's not the best at winning the ball in the air. That could be a problem, necessarily making these contested, toss it up catches, 50-50 balls. He's not really going to win there. And he's not the best against press as well, which we've talked about a lot. That definitely is something that I think could be coached out at the NFL level. And then landing spot, he's going to the boys. It's happening. It's happening. We definitely need to be taking. Niners need to be taking another receiver. I do think Ayuk is going to sign the extension, but due to salary cap reasons, I do think Debo will be gone after the season. Sad as it is to say, we do definitely need to. We couldn't necessarily afford both of them, so I do think they'll be drafting a guy a little later, looking for the long-term play. And then as my player comparison, I think he's going to do a lot better, but I got Michael Wilson.
Interesting.
I like
Really
your player
quick,
comp.
just-
I like your player comp.
Mason, I think you'll like my player comp for Brendan Rice. I got a Jacoby Myers.
Oh, that's my boy.
I know that's your boy, and Brendan Rice is your boy. But I made the player comp without thinking about it, and then I got ready for the show and looked over, and I was like, "Oh, Mason's gonna like that."
I've got your
Also,
Alec
Evan,
Pierce
I got
comp.
him going to the Chargers because of how run focused they are, and I agree. One of the major positives I had for him is he's a reliable run blocker. So I think he can get it done in all facets, and I think that overall, great fit for the Chargers right now.
Yeah, and he wouldn't be the only receiver we take too. I like stacking up multiple receivers as well. In this draft. Yeah.
All right, who wants to go up next?
Lee can take it away here.
Yeah, so this is a guy I'm probably higher on than the consensus, probably higher than what the rest of the room is. But Jermaine Burton played at Georgia and Alabama, so he was in crowded wide receiver rooms his whole career. Not a standout production profile, but consistent and consistently got better, improved each year. 39 catches, right under 800 yards, 8 touchdowns at Alabama this past season. He's a guy who has a pedigree, and that especially when we get into these a little bit later wide receivers, again, maybe not the standout production, but it's a crowded room. It's a run-first offense still. With a running quarterback even, to be able to put up those kind of numbers is impressive against SEC defenses. What really stood out to me, again, is the acceleration combined with the speed, but really that acceleration's got great burst. Above average route runner, so you don't really have to coach that right away. He's got very fast feet, and he's able to manipulate defensive backs. The hands were great. Seemed to adjust to the ball in the air, and then also, as far as when plays break down, he's not giving up. He's coming back to the ball. He's working to get open. He's a guy who, on those scramble drills, he's going to give the quarterback an out. So, I was just really impressed with this guy. I feel like, again, some of how crowded the rooms were, because even at Georgia, he was fairly productive early on. I mean, nothing, stand out, but he was there in an important part of the team. He's a guy who only, he's 4 years in. So, he's experienced, but 6 foot, 200 pounds. I was really impressed by him. As far as negatives, the strength, again, and I know we've said this about a lot of guys, in this range, but just being able to get off the press, that's the biggest thing. And the yak ability, making people break tackles. I don't know that he's ever going to develop into that guy, but I definitely see him as somebody who's probably going to start off as a deep threat, but could probably work from the slot some as well, just because of his physical ability, and really continue to develop as an NFL wide receiver and I think he starts out as a wide receiver 3, but could definitely work his way up to a solid wide receiver 2 in the NFL. My player comp, it's Jahan Dotson, and I think the hands is what really stood out to me there. He's obviously not going to be a first-round pick, but I see some of the same playmaking ability, and to me, I've got Baltimore taking him because Odell's gone, Bateman is a bust. They need somebody else to go with Zay Flowers, and Mark Andrews coming off the injury. So I definitely think that would be a good landing spot, a good offense for him to go to. And Todd Monken wants to throw the ball more. We saw that to a detriment in the AFC Championship game, but they're looking for playmakers, and they're looking for guys that can be that deep threat. I think he would be a really good complement to Zay Flowers in that offense. And I'm pretty confident I probably have him a bit higher than anybody else as far as draft. I'm at 208, 209. Like I said, I'm high on him, and I think he's a guy who's going to have at least a 4 to 7 year career in the NFL at minimum.
Yeah, no, I like Jermaine Burton more than consensus. I definitely don't have him quite as high as you do as far as the rookie draft. But just to touch on some of the points that you were making, 2 dropped passes, over 169 targets in 4 years, insanely low. And then on top of it, you were talking about how he's been in successful collegiate programs his entire career. Georgia and Alabama, 2 years at each. Never had less than 400 yards and never had more than 40 receptions. So great yards per reception metrics. He's definitely going to, between the reliable hands, and you know what? I just looked it up. It is 4 dropped passes on 197 targets. Still nothing crazy at all.
So average 1 drop pass a year. 1 drop pass.
Right. It's 1 drop pass a year, over 197 targets. That's 50 targets per season. That's an insanely high or low drop pass rate. Like you're saying, I think he has the ability to adapt into more. I have him player style comp, Rashid Shaheed. Anyone like that?
Well, that's fair.
I thought it was pretty similar. But yeah, I think he has the ability to adapt into more than that. Let's move on to Evan's last player here. Who do you got?
Yeah, I feel bad leaving my guy Jalen McMillan out, but I just can't resist talking about Johnny Wilson. Oh my God, I can't not do it. He's just too fun to talk about. He's 6'6", 231 pounds, 22.9 years old. Fannie Pro's rookie ranking has him at 21, and then the big board has him at 79. I mean, he's huge, and moves great for his size in terms of like change of direction. I have a feeling that guy might have played a little bit of basketball and probably has like a decent crossover built up over this point. So that's kind of how I see him, just quick movements there in terms of like when you're deep in the red zone, getting open quick. That's going to be huge. And I think that he has that capability, and he's going to be a red zone threat for sure. Not the best versatility in his routes, though. So I don't expect him to have the most extensive route tree, but he's a go-getter. He's definitely a go-getter. He'll go up and get the ball. Player style comp for him is Jawan Johnson. Actually, not a wide receiver. So, but he is a wide receiver. He came into the wide receiver, the league as wide receiver, converted to tight end. I could totally see this happening for Johnny Wilson as well. So definitely feel like that's a fair comp, even though it's outside the parameters there. But this guy is out of the. He's not an in the box wide receiver. He's definitely out of the box wide receiver with his size. So projected landing spot, I have him going for the Cowboys. Superflex rookie draft value is I might be too high on him, but it's too much fun. 309.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely higher than I got him. I got him going mid fourth. I do think that definitely some points to bring up on him. On top of him being coming in the combine 6'6", 231, he has a 7-foot wingspan.
Yeah,
7 feet.
He's a monster.
That's stupid. Like, that is stupid big. And Evan, if you're right, I know you're speculating if he did play any basketball at any point in his life, you can expect some NFL commentator to go, "Oh, well, this guy had a high school basketball career," how they do with every tight end ever.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely hear about it if it did happen. But yeah, no, I think on top of having a ridiculous wingspan in height, even with that, he does a great job of catching balls outside of his frame. And that doesn't go unnoticed. When you got a big guy that doesn't catch outside of your frame, kind of like Quentin Johnson, that body catcher type, you're not going to do much good with all of that size. So that does go far, and I think that maybe someday he can become a big red zone threat. Outside of that, I don't see too much for him. But he did run a 4.52. That's not going to kill you, when you're at 6'6". If you run above that, generally speaking, not going to get it done at the next level, no matter how big you are. But at 4.52, he can get it done, and I agree with you that he is a smooth mover as far as 6'6" humans go.
Yeah.
Just one quick fun fact to throw out there: nowhere near expecting this type of expectation, even for Johnny Wilson. Only wide receivers to crack the Hall of Fame that were above 6'3", Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, and Harold Carmichael. Just saying. Just something that I was looking up when I saw his height there. Did I miss your player style comp?
No, it was Jawan Johnson and Jimmy Graham.
Oh, yes.
That's another one that I put on there,
That's
too.
right. That's
There's
right.
two tight ends.
Yeah. That's right. I had Alan Lazard with slightly worse hands, but Alan Lazard's not held in high pedigree. So, and then the last part, Johnny Wilson. Do you guys have a projected landing spot for him?
I do, and just to add to the player style comp, and I mean it's a little bit of a low hanging fruit. But I see similarities beyond the size, and honestly, I think it's probably his absolute ceiling. And you might turn your face when I say ceiling, but people forget how good this guy was as a rookie. Kelvin Benjamin also played at Florida State. Had a great rookie year, over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, and he tore his ACL his sophomore year and never really recovered. But if he could become that, to me, that's the absolute ceiling. As far as a landing spot, I actually think this would be another good one and a good contrast to what they have. But I got him going to the Giants in the 4th round.
That's who I have.
Yeah. They need a big receiver.
That's a great landing spot there, too. That's a great landing spot there.
Yeah, the Giants have made so many mistakes, and I can see them making another one and not utilizing this guy at all. Mason, do you have anything to add there?
I'll just say my landing spot, I would have him going Bengals, just because whether or not T. Higgins does play there this year, I don't think he'll be wanting to stay there after this year. I think this definitely will be his last year if he stays there. So I could just, and they do need a big body guy. Their wide receiver room is pretty poor. Tyler Boyd is gone. And I mean, T. Higgins most likely gone. They definitely need a wide receiver.
Is that the 5th wide receiver you have the Bengals taking in this draft?
I haven't said Bengals once.
That's
I said
probably
Bills.
me.
I said Bills a lot.
I'm
But
messing with you.
I definitely had Bengals for Tez. That was it for Bengals. But I just looked up Kelvin Benjamin's career because we were talking about him. He missed 2015, came in 2014. Anyone want to guess how many years he played in the NFL?
I know he played every year but one with a beer belly with him.
Which is insane for being that tall. How do you have a beer belly? And ran that many routes.
Maybe
I'm
4 or
cheating
5 years.
because I glanced at it, so I'll let Mason.
5 years, I want to say.
what?
That's pretty close.
What
Since
about
no one else was paying attention, maybe. We got Calvin Benjamin 4 years in the NFL with
4
1
years.
year missed in 2015. That is insane. For a guy that had 1,000 yards receiving in his rookie season, 9 touchdowns, 73 receptions off 142 targets. That's nuts that after that rookie season, he couldn't make it last more than 4 seasons.
That ACL tear, man, he blew up after that. He did not have that beer belly as a rookie, and that whole year off really hurt him badly.
Yeah.
For sure. And I mean, like, ACL tear is definitely terrible. I feel like that's going to do more damage to a guy like, obviously, polar opposite end of the spectrum, but like Tyreek, he makes his money off speed, off quick twitch, whereas Calvin Benjamin didn't do that. He's just like, go run in the red zone and be as tall as you are.
Yes.
It's going to hurt you if you gain 30 pounds in the offseason.
Well, that's true. That's true, but just don't eat a bunch of Twinkies. I don't know. If I can do it, he can do it, especially if you're going to pay millions. All right. That's going to do it. I enjoyed that last, how we styled that last bit, the post show there.
Yeah.
That's fun getting to talk about a bunch of different players, covering some guys. Do wish we got to talk about Jalen McMillan. If enough people say, hey, what do you think about Jalen McMillan in the comments here? Maybe we'll come back next week, hit him quick, give you a quick breakdown for the guy. Next week's going to be running backs and tight ends. Make sure you join us right before the draft hits, baby. We are not far away at all. Let me
8 days. 8 days.
So close.
8 days. 8 days. Can't wait for this. Can't come soon enough. After the NFL draft, we will be running a Dynasty Superflex mock. Let's see where everyone pans out. Get some quick reactions off of this.
And real quick, I just want to plug it because unfortunately I won't be here next week. I've got a family engagement. But for the draft, guys, we will have a live Stadium Rant show. We're going to have guys from every team kind of weighing in when their team's on the clock. So please tune in to Stadium Rant on YouTube. Give us a listen on draft night. We'll give you some analysis and some excitement for sure.
Absolutely. It can't hurt to throw it on YouTube in the background. Have some guys doing more than just, kind of like what Evan was saying about the basketball. You're going to hear that basketball comment about 10, 15 different wide receivers and tight ends. So,
and if you want to see somebody actually break their TV and not it be staged, if Washington drafts JJ McCarthy, I'm probably going to smash a TV. So yeah, I mean, tune in for that.
And excitement, right?
No.
No, he wants May. I know you want May.
May, I'll take Daniels. It just can't be JJ.
Yeah,
I'm okay with May or Daniels, honestly. And Adam Peters, I trust.
100% agreed. I have too many TVs in this household, so if he goes there, I will break one of my TVs for you, Lee.
Yeah.
And then you can send me back that $100 that I paid you for eating a banana. All right, everybody have a good week. Running backs and tight ends up next. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Have a great week, y'all.
Draft.